Hey Jolynn, how you doing? All right, so I changed up my color palette. Originally I was trying to go with the more neutral tones of the time period, but here the critiques and decided to go with something better represents penicillin in its actual form. I also need to figure out something with the photo so it does. All right, yeah, well, definitely we'll address these comments. Let's go ahead and take a look. I love it. I think it's great so far. Really engaging. It's very interesting. It's very easy to look at. It's inviting, it's accessible, it's welcoming. There's a nice airy, well, for the most part, there's a nice airy feeling to it, which means that you're concentrating on negative space, which is a good thing. So yeah, overall, I'm very pleased with it. I think it's coming together beautifully. Okay, a few comments I have. I think right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 entries on the timeline. You know, boy, I'm wondering about the timeline. My only problem with the timeline is that you've got one word all the way down. It's really, really hard to read. Begin research under Sir Alworth Wright in vaccine therapy. See what I mean? It doesn't read well. It reads exactly how it is. That's one word at a time. So I'm wondering if you reconfigure that timeline using the same basic configuration, maybe even consider moving some of your entries to the top of the timeline. I think the timeline definitely needs to come down in composition a little bit. But if we were to move some of these entries, boy, I want you to really think about how you can eliminate this stacking of these words. It's just really, really difficult. It might entail moving some things to the top. It might entail reconfiguring the timeline itself. Think about it. Think about how you're going to do that. But right now, I think that's really a problem right there. As far as your other typography goes, and definitely, I'd like to see a little space here between the timeline and the top of the poster. So a little kind of a resting area for the viewer, so to speak. Because you got this big area in the bottom on the bottom of the page. So I think if we more evenly distribute that area between the bottom and this central area right here, I think it'll improve page harmony. It'll make an accessible layout even more welcoming. Okay, let's take a look at the typography. So, the color I think is good. I think right here, I would go with solid white on these instead of gray. I think we can increase the contrast there, or maybe even the yellow. I don't know. Try maybe even introducing another color. But right now, I think the contrast associated with this timeline is a little bit lacking. I think that if we can increase that contrast, I think that will definitely increase the visual engagement of the piece itself. So, um, this type right here is, let me see how do I want to do this. What do we have here? Okay, so we've got a JPEG. Let me see if right now that's not being viewed the way I can't expeditiously see this. And of course my computer just decided to crash. There we go. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just save that right there. Then we'll go down here and we'll grab it. And that should open in preview, which it did. That's excellent. That's what I'm looking for right there, so that we can get in here and take a closer look. Okay, so the type, I think that's really, really text heavy here. I think this is a lot of text to include for a poster. I would definitely recommend reducing the amount of text here. As far as your type setting goes, I think you're set up pretty well. There's a couple of things, though. I think we're looking at old style characters right here. I think that'll take this to the next level. Definitely want to consider using a typeface that has open type capabilities so that you can use um, old style characters for the number areas. Things like this, MBBS, all caps right there. That's begging for all caps. Definitely. I would definitely recommend that as well. Watch your regs, okay? Right now you've got these diagonals. You've got these wavy patterns, and especially things like this wave that goes whoop like that. You do not want that. These are better. You got that diagonal there. Basically, what you want in your regs is this. You don't want anything like this long line, short line, big long line, even shorter line. You don't want any of that. You want your regs to be kind of long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, and kind of like that, but not to the point where you even really notice it. So you don't want these wavy patterns here. You don't want this kind of swoopy thing here. You don't want that diagonal there. There's another diagonal there. You definitely want to work those all out in that regard. Numerals, try old style characters on your numerals for the timeline as well. I think that's going to be interesting also. Okay, so you've got a little bit of a broken grid here, and that right now you see I've got two main columns. They're thick columns. I'm not real sure if this is dissected into further a grid structure, but right now your main grid looks like you've got these two wide columns and then this thin column here. So I'm not real sure exactly. One thing that you could maybe consider doing is so you don't feel like the image is just plopped in there is maybe consider, well, I think a caption would maybe help, but you definitely don't want that to interfere with the timeline, so keep that in mind. Alexander Fleming, I think the title is a little bit too big, the relationship here between the title and the size of the body copy. I think that the body copy is really small, the title is really big. This body copy, as I said before, by zooming in here, and I want to go, this is a serif typeface. It's basically reversed. You've got white text on a color background. With the serif typeface indicates that you definitely, oh, World War II, that's all caps, right? Or small, I'm sorry, small cap right there. Army Medical Corps, that could be small caps. Just think about where you want to include your small caps. Definitely WW1 as well as some of those other areas that I had mentioned. Okay, so as what I was saying about the serif typeface on the reverse background is that's a formula that's begging for increasing your tracking. So I would definitely increase the tracking associated with this type. I think it'll make it much, much more readable, as right now it's really very, very dense. I think the leading is okay, but the kerning is really tight. Those serifs are starting to form lines. Like that almost looks like it's underlined, and that's because of the close kerning in conjunction with the reverse type, along with the serifs, are creating some unusual areas and that's based on the closeness of those letters. So again, I recommend that we go ahead and increase the tracking therein. Okay, so those are my recommendations and comments. If you have any questions, keep working hard, man. This is going along beautifully. I am a little bit concerned about the contrast. I think we could use an increase in contrast in this composition. So think of that as well. And don't forget old style characters as well as all caps. It's a great formula. Try it. Okay, any questions, comments, concerns, or clarifications, please let me know. Thank you very much, Jolynn.